everyone, welcome back to While You Were Cleaning. Today I have some Dollar Tree spring decor DIYs to share with you, and I am super excited with how each of these projects turned out. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that it's helpful for you. If you do enjoy it, please hit that like button, please comment and subscribe, and we'll go ahead and get started. For my first project, you'll need a frame. I'm using this frame that I already had on hand. You could also buy a new 8x10 frame from Dollar Tree. And then I'm going to be using, first off, this flat gray primer on the frame. A primer coat just really helps your final coat to stick a little bit better to your frame and to have a smoother finish. And then next, I'm going to be doing a finish coat of this glossy sage green color. I love Rust-Oleum paint. This is my favorite brand. And I'm just going to add one really good coat of paint onto this frame. It was very cold outside when I painted this, so I just wanted to do one good coat and be done with it, and then I brought it inside to dry. And here's how that finished coat looks all put on. For this project, you'll also need a bottle. This is one that I bought in the past from Dollar Tree. They have some other different shapes of bottles out in the stores right now. You'll also need some twine, and this is one that I also picked up from Dollar Tree, but you could use any twine that you have. First off, I'm going to pull out a bunch of this twine. I think I pulled out probably about 8 feet of it, and then I cut that off, and then I folded the twine in half so it had a loop at one end of it. I put the looped end around the mouth of the bottle, and then I fed my long strands of string through the loop so that it was tied in place, and then I added some hot glue to hold that portion in place, and then wrapped the twine around the top of the bottle a couple times. I went towards the top, then back down to the bottom, and then back up towards the top again. And then at the top of the bottle here, I went ahead and just tied a simple knot, and this holds in place really well. You could also hot glue this down or hot glue as you're going to make sure that it stays onto your bottle. Next, I'm going to add this to my frame. So I centered it on the frame, and then I started wrapping the twine around the top of the frame. Just make sure you have your bottle in place where you want it to hang whenever you start this, and then just go ahead and wrap the rest of that twine around the top of the frame. Once you get to the end of your twine, you can tie it in place on the back of the frame, and then I went ahead and cut off the excess and hot glued down the end of the twine so that it stayed where it was supposed to. Lastly, I'm going to add some of this floral from Dollar Tree. This is a newer one that I found out this year, and I cut off 3 stems of this and then just slipped them into the top of the bottle. And then here you can see how it looks all finished. I just have it leaning on a shelf. You could also hang this on a wall. You could make a set of 3 of those and they would look really nice together, but I really do like the way that this one turned out. Next, you'll need some of these pots from Dollar Tree. They come in a 2-pack and a 3-pack. I'm going to be painting just 3 of these pots, 1 of the larger ones and then 2 of the smaller ones. The other 2 pots I'm going to leave this terracotta color, and then I'm going to be painting these with just a white primer. The nozzle on my flat white paint is broken, so I just used this primer one and that one worked fine. I went ahead and just added 1 coat with them facing down, and then after I was done with that, I turned them over and I added another coat to the outside edges, and then I sprayed them on the insides as well. And this primer, probably any spray paint, kind of soaks in to these pots a little bit, so the finish is not super smooth, not super even, and that's exactly how I wanted it to be. And to finish off these pots, it's really simple. You're just going to add some greenery to the top of them. This first one here I got from Walmart, but the rest of them all came from Dollar Tree. I tried to use some different greenery that I already had on hand, so I didn't want to go out and buy a bunch of new stuff, or make sure that it all came from Dollar Tree. but I just cut off 2 or 3 stems of each of these and then just put them together and slip them into the top of the pot. I didn't glue them in place or use any green foam. They hold in place just fine, depending on whether you want these to be permanent or whether you want to reuse the greenery or the pots at a later time. You could glue them in place or use some green foam, but they work really great just sitting right in the pot, and you don't really notice that there's nothing in the bottom of the pot. I also saw online that Dollar Tree is supposed to be getting some larger sizes of these pots, so I'm hoping to find some of those as well to add along with these ones, because I think some larger sizes would be great. I think those just come as a single pot rather than in a pack of 2 or 3. And then this last one is the only one that I glued in place. I used this grass. It normally has these little butterflies at the top of it, but I already had this on hand, so I grabbed a bunch of it and I used a wire around the end of it to hold all of the pieces in place. And then I used some scissors to cut off the excess on the end of this. So you'll want to hold it up to your pot to see exactly how long you want these grass pieces to be before you go ahead and cut that. You can always cut them shorter too as well. So I added some hot glue to the bottom of the pot and then stuck the grass pieces in, and I kind of pulled them out of the wire a little bit. I also added some hot glue into the center because I wanted these to stand a little bit more upright, but just keep in mind that the hot glue, if you use it and it's very, very hot, it's going to melt this greenery a little bit, so keep that in mind. And then I added a smaller piece of wire around this greenery to try to hold the stems upwards, and you can't really see the greenery because it's all green down there in the pot anyways, so it did help to hold this green grass sticking upwards farther. And here you can see how all of those turned out. I really love the way that they look. I'm hoping to find some bigger pots as well so that I can add them onto the shelf and have a few different sizes and styles, some of them upright and some of them laying down. I feel like all of today's spring DIYs are so simple, and this next one is another simple one. I picked up one of these baskets. These are newer ones that they have out for the spring. I had a really hard time finding these, and I really wanted a gray one, but I could only find this dark blue. So I'm going to go ahead and paint my basket a gray color. I started off with this gray primer so that my finish coat would stick a little bit better to the basket. I mainly focused on the outside of the basket, and then the overspray going through the sides of the basket coated the inside of it as well, but I wasn't so much worried with the inside being gray. And then for the finish coat, I'm going to use this satin stone gray color. This is very close to the gray that they have on the baskets in the store, so if you find one of the gray baskets, you can just use one of those. Or I just want you to know that you can paint these baskets any color that you would like. I don't think they have any white ones in the store, so if you wanted a white one or a black one, you could paint these any color. Just use a primer coat first and then finish it off with whichever color you would like. And then I brought these inside so that it could dry, and then here's what it looks like all finished. Next, you'll need some brown paper. I had this brown wrapping paper on hand already, but they sell rolls of brown paper in Dollar Tree, or you could also use some paper bags. I cut these into about 12 by 12 inch pieces, and then I also cut some short pieces of twine that I could use to tie around this. And then I just picked up some florals from in Dollar Tree, and what I'm going to do is wrap them inside this brown paper so that they look like fresh flowers that you just picked up at a farmer's market or at a florist. Coming in this brown paper, I just really like the way that they looked and how the brown paper kind of finishes them off. And these are just some different spring florals that I found recently in the store, also some greenery. And I'm just going to use 3 different bundles of these, tie them all in the same way, and then to finish off this, I'm just going to be adding these into this basket. I feel like it looks very much like you just came from the farmer's market or the florist and brought home some flowers, and just wrapping them in the brown paper bag just kind of elevates them a little bit so that they look a little bit more like real flowers. Then I'm going to be using some ribbon to make a bow for the front of this. This is a clearance ribbon that I picked up from Walmart, but you could use any ribbon that you find at Dollar Tree. A wire edge is better, and I'm just going to be folding this into a bow. So I just made a couple loops and then folded it back over and made a few more loops, and then in the center here I'm going to add a wire. I pinched the center together, and then I used a piece of wire that I already cut to twist around the center of this to hold the bow together. So I just twisted it in the back to hold it tightly, and then I'm going to take this ribbon and I'm going to wrap it around the center of the bow to finish off the center and to cover up that wire. So I wrapped it around the bow once, and then I used that wire in the back to hold that ribbon down in place, and then I pulled it out to be the second tail of the bow, cut it off, and then folded the end under so that it was finished, and then I'm going to add this onto my basket. So I added it right to the center of the basket using that wire to hold it in place, and then I fluffed up the bow until I was happy with how it looked. And here you can see how this project looks all finished. You could add this on a shelf or on a mantle, to the center of a table, anywhere in your home that needs a little bit of a fresh floral look. I really love the way that this looks, and I was really happy with how it turned out. For the last project today, we're going to be putting together a wreath. I'm going to use one of these smaller wreath forms that come in a 2-pack from Dollar Tree, and I'm also going to be using this 30-pack of heart doilies. If you can no longer find these heart doilies, that's okay. You can use regular round doilies as well. I just already had these ones on hand, so I decided to use these ones. And what you're going to do is you're going to accordion fold the bottom part of this doily where the point is. If you're using round ones, you would just do it on one of the sides. You're just going to do that so that it ruffles a little bit towards the bottom of the doily, and then you're just going to slip it through the outside ring of your wreath first, and then you'll glue it in place on the back. And these are overlapping by about 1.5 to 2 inches. Each one overlaps the one next to it. I'm going to add these doilies all around the outside edge of this wreath first, and you could use any color for these as well. I really do like the way that the white looks though. And then if you come to a point where there is one of these metal support bars in the way, you're going to accordion fold like normal for your heart doily, and then you can cut a little slit in the bottom so that it can go around that, so you don't have to push it to one side or the other of that little support part. Here I wanted to go ahead and show you a little bit slower how I'm accordion folding these doilies. So I started in the center first and folded it in half, then I folded up towards the center and then back down. So you can see it gives it this ruffled look to it. Once I finished adding the doilies to the outermost ring of the wreath form, and then I started on the middle ring, and these ones I staggered to the side just a little bit so that the heart shape was not perfectly lining up with the hearts that were on the outside ring of the wreath. You would need to do this with round doilies as well. You'll just want to stagger them a little bit so that they're not perfectly lining up. And lastly, I'm going to add the doilies to the centermost ring of the wreath form. Again, I staggered these to the side just a little bit so that they didn't line up with the heart doilies on the outer 2 rings of the wreath form. And then these ones I shortened up just a little bit more as well. And then here you can see my kitty came to help me. She's always so helpful when it comes to putting crafts together. She loves to lay up on the table with me and sometimes knock things over. I finished up the innermost ring of this wreath. You could also add a bow or some flowers to the center of this wreath as well, but I really like the way that it looked with just the lace doilies. I thought it gave it a really delicate look, and I love the way that this one turned out. So here you can see how it looks all finished. I hung it on my wall. This would look great on a front door as well, and you could also make it in a much larger size. You'll just obviously need a bigger pack of doilies or to use larger size doilies. And I'm adding a short clip of my kitty because she's just too adorable to not share with you. I hope that today's video was super helpful for you and that you can use some of these DIYs in your own home. I think many of them probably fit more into a farmhouse decor type style, but they could be easily adapted to any style. Thank you all so much for watching today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!